All right, so today we're going to take a deep dive into how AI could be used to fight cheating in online games, specifically in the Division 2. This is going to be pretty interesting.
Yeah, it's definitely a hot topic right now for sure.
Yeah.
The dark zone in the Division 2, it can be so exciting, high risk, high reward, but it can also be so frustrating when you run into players who are cheating to get ahead.
Right, exactly. So for anyone listening who hasn't actually played in the Dark Zone, it's basically this lawless area of the game where you're just as likely to be taken out by another player as you are by the enemies themselves. The loot's amazing, but the tension is real. And you can imagine, when the stakes are that high, some players will try anything to win, even if it means breaking the rules.
Yeah, and that's really the core of the problem. When cheating becomes a problem, it ruins the entire experience for everyone. It creates an atmosphere of distrust and frustration. And it can be damaging to the game's community, and this is something that a lot of online games face, not just the Division 2.
So let's talk about the cheaters themselves. The article breaks down the most common types of cheating into three main categories.
Yeah.
You've got the traditional cheats like hacks and aimbots, lag switching to disrupt the game for others, and then those third-party devices like the Cronus Zen.
Right. And each of those methods exploits the game in different ways. Traditional cheats often involve modifying the game's code to give players advantages that shouldn't be possible. Like imagine being able to see enemies through walls or landing headshots every time with perfect accuracy. It's super frustrating to play against. And it can be really hard for developers to catch because these hackers are always finding new ways to get around security measures.
Yeah, it's like an endless back and forth battle between the cheaters and the developers. Then you have lag switching, which honestly feels like you're fighting a ghost.
Right.
You're in the middle of a firefight, and suddenly your opponent starts teleporting all over the place, making it impossible to hit them. Then they reappear right behind you and take you out. It's infuriating.
Yeah, from a technical standpoint, lag switching involves manipulating a player's internet connection to create those, artificial delays. So imagine packets of data traveling between your computer and the game server. A lag switcher is basically intentionally disrupting that flow of data, causing those jerky movements and frustrating gameplay for everyone else.
So it's not just a bad internet connection. It's deliberate manipulation.
Yeah.
And then we have the Cronus Zen, which adds another layer of sneakiness.
Right. What makes devices like the Cronus Zen so tricky is that they don't actually touch the game files themselves. Instead, they sit between your controller and your console or PC and intercept the signals being sent. It's kind of like having a secret agent, manipulating the messages between your brain and your hand. This allows players to do things like activate rapid fire, reduce recoil, or even execute those automated combos with perfect timing. And they do all this without leaving a trace in the game's code.
Wow.
And because most traditional anti-cheat systems are looking for changes within the game itself, these devices can be really difficult to detect.
It's like they found a way to cheat the system without actually cheating, at least not from the game's perspective. It's actually kind of brilliant in a devious way. But here's where things get really interesting. What if we could use artificial intelligence to fight back? That's exactly what this article is exploring. And the possibilities seem pretty amazing.
Yeah, the idea is that AI is really good at spotting patterns and anomalies in large amounts of data. And online games are constantly generating massive amounts of data. Things like player movements, actions, network activity, you name it. It's like a gold mine of information that an AI system can analyze.
So instead of waiting to react to cheaters after they've already ruined the game for other players, AI could proactively identify and maybe even prevent cheating from happening in the first place.
Exactly. AI has incredible data processing capabilities, the ability to analyze information in real time, and I think most importantly, the ability to learn and adapt. As new cheating methods emerge, the AI can evolve its detection strategies, constantly staying one step ahead of the cheaters.
So it's like having this digital detective constantly patrolling the dark zone, looking for any suspicious activity. So let's talk about how this could actually work. The article mentions something called behavioral analysis.
Right. Think of the AI as a detective building a profile on each player. It observes their behavior over time and establishes a baseline of what's normal for them. Then it flags any actions that deviate significantly from that baseline.
So for example, if someone usually misses half of their shots, and suddenly they start landing headshots every single time, the AI would be like, hold on, something's not right here.
Exactly. Or let's say a player consistently reacts to enemy movements before they're even visible on their screen. That would also be a red flag for the AI. It's like they're seeing the future, which obviously isn't possible without some kind of unfair advantage.
It sounds like something out of Minority Report, predicting crimes before they happen. I'm picturing the AI pulling up a holographic display
Yeah.
with all these suspicious activities flashing red.
Yeah. Maybe not quite that dramatic, but you get the idea. The AI isn't reading minds, it's simply analyzing patterns of behavior and identifying those that fall outside the realm of what's statistically probable. It's like seeing someone win the lottery 5 times in a row. It's
Right.
technically possible, but highly unlikely.
Okay, so the AI is building these behavioral profiles and looking for deviations from the norm. The article also mentions that it can use heat maps and player data to spot cheating. What does that mean exactly?
So imagine a visual representation of the dark zone, where each player's movements and actions are tracked and displayed as heat signatures. The AI can use these heat maps to look for anomalies. That might suggest cheating.
So if you see a cluster of shots concentrated in an area where there shouldn't be any enemies, it could be a sign that someone's using an aimbot to automatically target players through walls.
Right. Or if a player's movement pattern suddenly becomes erratic and doesn't make sense, like they're teleporting around the map, that would also be a pretty clear sign that something's up. And remember, the AI is constantly cross-referencing this data with the game's rules and mechanics, so it can quickly identify actions that are physically impossible.
Okay, this is all incredibly impressive, but I'm curious, what happens when the AI detects something suspicious? Does it automatically ban the player?
That's a good question, and it gets to the heart of how AI should be used in these situations.
So it's not about replacing human judgment entirely. It's more about giving human moderators better tools to do their jobs, like having a superpowered assistant who can analyze massive amounts of data and point out the most likely cases of cheating. And that's just the beginning. We'll delve deeper into this in the next part of our deep dive.
They try to get 5 bucks.
Welcome back to our deep dive on how AI could be used to combat cheating in The Division 2. In the last part, we talked about how AI could spot those traditional hacks and even pick up on suspicious behavioral patterns. But what about those more difficult-to-catch tactics like lag switching and third-party devices? Can AI really deal with those as well?
Absolutely. AI can analyze network data and input patterns, which opens up a whole new world of possibilities for catching those sneaky players trying to bend the rules. Let's start with lag switching, which, as you said before, can really feel like you are fighting a teleporting phantom.
Yeah, it's so frustrating. I'd love to hear how AI could make things more fair.
Well, remember, lag switching basically involves intentionally disrupting your internet connection to create those fake delays.
Right.
AI can be like a network detective that constantly monitors how data flows between players and the game server, looking for signs that someone's manipulating their connection.
So it's not like it's just looking for players with bad connections because everyone's internet acts up sometimes, right?
Right. It's way more complicated than that. The AI looks at things like ping and packet loss, which are basically measurements of how stable a connection is. It looks for very specific patterns that suggest someone is messing with their connection on purpose, rather than just having normal internet problems.
Could you give an example of what those patterns might look like?
Sure, imagine a player who usually has a steady ping, but suddenly it spikes way up right before they dodge a fatal attack, or their packet loss jumps up right as they get a bunch of impossibly accurate shots. For the AI, these kinds of connections between network problems and the player getting an advantage are major red flags.
So it's all about the timing and context. The AI isn't just looking for bad connections. It's looking for those times when a player's connection problems conveniently happen at the exact moment they benefit. But wouldn't those lag switchers just change their tactics to try and avoid detection?
That's where AI's ability to learn and adapt really shines. As cheaters come up with new methods, the AI can adjust its detection strategies too. Plus, the article mentions something called peer comparison, which adds another layer of detection on top of everything else.
Peer comparison. That sounds interesting. Tell me more.
With peer comparison, the AI compares the network data of all players in the match. So if everyone's connection is fine, except for one player who is having all sorts of issues that just happen to benefit them at just the right moments, well, it becomes pretty obvious something's not right. It's like the AI is looking for the player whose network behavior is really different from everyone else.
So it's not just about looking at one player's connection on its own. It's about looking at the bigger picture and noticing those inconsistencies.
That's really clever, and I bet this kind of AI network analysis could be used for more than just catching cheaters, too.
Absolutely. It's really cool how tech that was first created to improve online gaming can also be used to find people acting maliciously. Like some AI tools are already used in cloud gaming services, such as Google Stadia, to predict and manage network problems so that everyone has smooth gameplay.
That's amazing how versatile those tools are. All right, so we've talked about how AI could find traditional hacks, notice behavioral red flags, and even outsmart lag switchers. But what about those third-party devices like the Cronus Zen? It seems like those are much harder to catch because they're not actually messing with the game's code, right? Exactly. They work by changing the signals going from the controller to the game. But even here, AI can play a big part in finding them. It comes down to what's called input analysis. Basically, the AI watches how players are using their controllers or mice, looking for things that don't seem natural or that a human couldn't possibly do over and over again.
So if someone is suddenly able to control their weapon's recoil perfectly with zero shake or deviation, the AI would notice that.
Exactly. Or imagine a player who pulls the trigger so fast and consistently that no human could possibly do it. The AI can pick up on those kinds of subtle clues, even if they're not as obvious as things like aimbots or seeing through walls.
It's like the AI can sense when something is off, showing that someone is using an external device to be better than they normally would be. So it's more than just noticing rapid fire or other obvious hacks. It's about the AI being able to understand the tiny details of how a player inputs commands and finding patterns that suggest they're using an external device.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. And to make it even harder for people using those third-party devices, the article also talks about controller signature recognition.
Oh.
Every controller or mouse has a unique input signature, almost like a fingerprint, based on how it interacts with the game. The AI can learn to recognize the signatures of devices that are known to be used for cheating, like the Cronus Zen.
Hold on. So if someone plugs in one of these devices, the AI could know right away just from how it interacts with the game. That's awesome. It's like a digital bloodhound that can sniff out those tricky devices.
It's pretty powerful. And as these devices become more common, the AI can constantly learn new signatures, which makes it even harder for cheaters to stay ahead. But there's even more. The article also explains something called server-side verification, which adds another layer of protection.
Okay, I'm hooked. What's server-side verification?
It's a cool technique where the AI compares the input data coming from a player's controller with what the game server expects to see. It looks at the player's actions and the game's rules, and if something doesn't match up, it could mean a third-party device is messing with the input signals.
So if a player is somehow doing things that are physically impossible based on what buttons they're pressing, the AI would know something fishy is going on. It's like having a second set of eyes on the server double-checking to make sure everything is legit.
You got it. And remember that Fortnite example we talked about earlier? Epic Games has been experimenting with input analysis to find and stop people using unauthorized devices. It seems like that same approach could really work in The Division 2, too.
It's pretty amazing. It seems like with the power of AI, we could make online gaming way more fair and fun for everybody. But are there any downsides or reasons why using AI for cheat detection might not be the best idea?
That's a great question, and it's super important to think about. AI definitely has a lot of potential, but it's not perfect. There are challenges and things that could go wrong, and we need to figure those out.
Okay, let's discuss those in the final part of our deep dive.
Yeah, but they're coming out.
Welcome back to our deep dive into how AI could be used to take down cheaters in The Division 2. So we've spent the last two parts talking about all the exciting possibilities of AI. But before we hand over the keys to the dark zone to AI and call it a day, we need to talk about some of the potential downsides and challenges.
You're right. It's super important to be careful with any new technology, especially something as powerful as AI. There are definitely things that could go wrong, and we need to be aware of those.
One concern that the article brought up was the risk of false positives. Like, what happens if the AI thinks a player is cheating when they're actually not?
Yeah, that's a big one. Imagine a player who is just having a really good day. They're making awesome shots, they're outsmarting their opponents. An AI system that's too focused on catching cheaters might think that player's doing something suspicious when they're really just playing well.
That would be terrible. You're just playing the game at your best, and suddenly you're being accused of cheating. You could even get banned from the game even though you didn't do anything wrong.
Exactly. That's why it's so important to remember that AI should never be the one making all the decisions. It's a powerful tool, but human moderators should always be involved to make sure things are fair.
So it's more about using AI to help human moderators do their jobs better. It's like having a super smart assistant that can point out the players who are most likely to be cheating.
Yeah, that's the goal. The AI flags the suspicious behavior, then a human moderator can look at the evidence and make the final call. That way, you get the best of both worlds. AI speed and efficiency and human judgment to prevent unfair bans.
Another challenge the article talked about is the cost and time it takes to create these AI systems. I imagine it can't be cheap to build and run such complex technology.
You're right, it takes a lot of money and technical expertise to make these AI-powered anti-cheat systems work. Not every game developer can afford that, especially smaller studios.
And even if a studio does have the money, it still takes a lot of time to build these systems and train the AI to work correctly.
Exactly. It's a long-term project that takes ongoing work and resources. Plus, as cheaters come up with new ways to cheat, the AI needs to be updated and improved to keep up.
The article also mentioned something interesting about balancing transparency with security when it comes to AI-powered anti-cheat measures. It sounds like game developers have a tough choice to make.
They do. Players want to understand how the system works, they want to know what the AI is looking for, and be sure that it's fair.
But if developers tell everyone exactly how the AI works, that would give cheaters the information they need to figure out how to trick it.
You got it. It's like giving away the secrets of your best weapon.
So developers have to find the right balance between being open with players and keeping the system secure. It's a tricky situation. All right, so we've talked about the amazing possibilities of AI in fighting cheating, but we've also discussed some of the challenges and things to watch out for. What's the most important thing for our listeners to take away from all of this?
I think the biggest takeaway is that AI is a really powerful tool, but it's not a magic solution. It has the potential to make online games much better for everyone, but it needs to be used carefully and responsibly.
We can't just throw AI at the problem and expect it to fix everything.
Right. We need to think carefully about how we use it and make sure that humans are still involved in the process.
This whole discussion is really interesting because it goes beyond the Division 2 or even video games in general. We're seeing these same issues and opportunities pop up all over the internet.
It's something that affects anyone who spends time online.
It really gets you thinking about the bigger picture. As AI becomes a bigger part of our lives, how can we use it to make online experiences fairer and more equitable for everyone?
That's a great question. And for our listeners who are gamers, I want to leave you with something to think about. Now that we've seen how AI could help stop cheating, do game developers have a responsibility to use this technology? It's not an easy question to answer, but it's definitely worth discussing.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of AI and cheat detection. We hope you learned some interesting things and that it got you thinking.